Adventure Forward 2 Points of Conflict. Arguably one of the most well-known Roblox adventure games that has inspired a generation, for better or worse. If you are a somewhat avid viewer of the channel, you probably already know what AF2 and the series it's a part of is. Adventure Forward has been a huge part of my life over the past 4-ish years, and it's certainly one of the reasons why I make content today. Like many, I got into the series by playing AF2, and for that it will always hold a place in my heart. But that doesn't make this game flawless, and in this video, I will go over why. This is going to be a full retrospective review of AF2, and we will be covering everything, from the gameplay to the lore, all in this video. Now before I begin, a few things to note. 1, you should like and subscribe right now, because I do put a lot of time and effort into these videos for you guys, and I want to make sure it can be seen by as many people as possible. And 2, the most important point, I am not going to be objective at all in this review. Just a fair warning. I have strong opinions about AF2, both positive and negative, and instead of trying to coddle people and just worry about their feelings, I'm just going to say it how it is. Sorry. I will not be treating AF2 with any reverence or respect in this video, so if you are expecting a fountain of praise for the game, yeah, no. That's not what you're getting with this. But I will try to be fair in my judgments. Now, with that out of the way, I guess let's start with some general things. First, let's talk about movement and platforming. In Adventure Forward 2, the player can move around freely and jump once. That's it. AF2 is quite the simple moveset, and while it's kind of boring and uninspired, especially considering that this is a game that came out with the likes of Super Roblox 64, which had a huge moveset, the simplicity has its own charm and allows the game to play into the power-ups more easily. Power-ups in AF2 offer unique ways of traversal, and have their own puzzles themed around them. For example, the Dash Pepper, which can temporarily increase your running speed, or the Battery Suit, which can be used to carry electrical charges from point A to point B. The vast majority of these power-ups are quite fun to use during the journey, however, there are some notable stinkers, mainly the marble power-up. Maybe it's just me, or because I'm bad, but I hate the marble courses in this game, aside from the first one. They're all just a huge chore to do. Once again, maybe I'm just bad at them, but they are really some of the worst parts of the entire game for me. Thankfully, this is a collectathon game, so I can just skip over most of them for the most part. Overall, while not perfect, the moveset in AF2 is serviceable at its worst, and quite fun and enjoyable at its best. And out of all the things in AF2, the power-ups in the moveset, I'd say, are the things that have aged the best. The gameplay is still quite solid even all these years later, but enough about that, let's move on to the worlds. Adventure Forward 2 has no shortage of worlds, each containing a total of 6 stars to collect. Every world is home to a celestial being called a point, who will require you to have a certain amount of stars before attempting their challenge course. A final test of skill from that point with an altered version of that world. The way worlds work in AF2 is pretty cool, and the idea of challenge courses makes learning about what every world has to offer really interesting, at least in concept. This theme is present for some of the worlds, but certainly not all of them. The best worlds and challenge courses are the ones that test everything you've learned. Like I said, Worlds 1, 3, and 9, for example, offer a pretty good challenge course for that reason, as they are the ones that test your skills that you've acquired from that world. And then there's stinkers like World 5s or World 8s. These don't test anything and are just mindless obstacle courses. Yes, World 8 has the marble course from the beginning, which is a reference to the particle accelerator star, but not only is this a poor re-showing, it's hands down one of the worst marble courses in the game. Seriously, that jump is bullshit. Anyways, as I was saying, the world/challenge courses are really hit or miss. While I have the urge to rank all the worlds in this video, I'm not going to make this video any longer than it needs to be, so here's my tier list. If you want to debate me about it, do so in the comments. Now that I'm done talking about the worlds, let's move on to the main story itself. Oh boy. The story goes as follows. Once upon a time, there was an ancient evil space demon named Stratosphere, who sought the power of the stars for himself to imprison a little city called Maytown. He was defeated by a resident of the town who grew to become the heroic star savior. Those were the events of the first game, which by the time of Adventure Forward 2 happened more than 300 years ago. And in the present day, more beings like Stratosphere called the Points live in peace. However, they are under the looming threat of a new evil named Celestial. Now, I love AF2's decision to start the way it does. Having the sequel to the first game set so far in the future to the point where the first game's events are just simply legend is really cool. even 5 years later. Also, the way it expands on the universe presented in AF1 is also just wow. The player is introduced to Siam and everything seems to be going awesome, right? Well, say bye-bye to the narrative because you aren't going to hear anything about Celestial, Stratosphere, or anything plot-related until World 5's ending, which is a darn shame. AF2 had no stakes for literally the vast majority of the story because there's only one villain, and he doesn't appear until the very end of the game. It's honestly ridiculous that no one thought to include Celestial at least a bit more in the story. And yes, I know that Siam is Celestial, and that would be kind of hard to do, but all it could have taken was, during World 5, Celestial could have broken into Star Sanctuary's Temple of Shadows and freed Stratosphere during the player's scene there. We know that Stratosphere got freed anyways, so it wouldn't ruin anything, and Siam could have just made an excuse when the player came back, saying that, oh, he saw Celestial and Stratosphere fly to the top of the Sky Emporium. It would have reinvigorated the stakes by doing the bare minimum. But there's just no attempt at anything. And don't get me started on the ridiculous dialogue. For the most part, the points dialogue is fine, but they're all just so flat character-wise. Aside from Mino and Siam occasionally, all the points have 3 personalities. Confused, cocky, or smart. There's no nuance, no funny interactions, no nothing. The non-boss point, Sparring and Shine, contribute nothing to the plot aside from standing around and commentating like a bunch of Dragon Ball Z side characters. I get that writing complex characters is hard, especially since AF2 presents the player with over 15 of them, but the lack of effort seen in their personalities is quite insane. The Crown of Shadows prologue level gives infinitely more personality to the points that they were given in the entirety of the second game. And if you don't think that's a problem, I don't know what to tell you. Same with the AF2 remakes Repainted and Redux, who, at least plot-wise for now, run circles around their source material in terms of writing. It's baffling. The ending of Adventure Forward 2 can only be described as a mixed bag, and definitely this is the part of the video that people are going to most disagree with me about. After all 9 worlds are completed, Siam disappears and all the points begin to look for him, only for it to be revealed that Siam killed all the voices in Ixel's head and he is evil. Now, not only does this come out of nowhere, but it's also just pointless and unexplained. I mean, it's never explained why Siam killed the voices in their head other than they're in my way, which again gets no further elaboration. This is just really lazy, and for a story that's otherwise had subpar writing up to this point, even then it's jarring. But let's just getting started. After a tea party, which was a pretty cool and funny way to introduce Stratosphere again, we are met with the entrance to the final world, Shattered Shardscape. Now, Shattered Shardscape is a very divisive world, but I personally really enjoy it. The awe of running through what was once the game's hub transformed into this broken, hostile environment, while the music crescendos and not even the points themselves know what the heck is going on. This is AF2 at its best. Unfortunately, it seems Explode 1 also had no idea what was going on, because the actual finale is the worst thing I have ever seen. Not quite as bad as SPR's finale, but it's pretty close. We start off with an info dump of word vomit, then the Siam fight, which is a pretty good boss, and then guess what? Another wall of word vomit awaits the player. No gameplay, just watching a bunch of non-animated Roblox models lightly argue with a floating one. And this is coming from someone who loves lore. I love when Roblox games decide to get dark and meta and have all this cool lore stuff, but not when it's presented with like 50 hours of text. Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating, but it's a lot of text. My question is, why couldn't any of this information be saved for the post-game? Like, I guess the points knowing Stratosphere is the SS1 is important to the finale, but do they really need to know that the whole AF1 plot twist where all the points used to be humans and stuff? Like, imagine if Stratosphere just breaks free from Siam's control, tells everyone he's the first star savior, then Siam appears again, transforms into the Red X, saying how there isn't much there's so much that the points don't know, and then he transforms into Celestial without any jargon or hesitation. Then in the post-game, it could be established through either a message in Celestial symbol or in the post-game mission itself that Siam turns citizens of Maytown into the points of conflict points. It would have saved time and would have not made the ending dialogue a slog. Speaking of a slog, the Celestial fight! Ugh! War flashbacks to the time I tried to attempt that for an Adventure Forward all bosses in the series thing. The Celestial fight is one of the worst bosses in the game, and frankly probably one of the worst boss fights in Roblox history. Plain and simple. It's not only extremely difficult, God help mobile players, but it's also fundamentally broken on a cellular level, so to speak. Unlike every other boss in the game where you gun them down in an open arena with a mostly free camera, the Celestial fight takes place in entirely awkward and idiotic camera angles and requires you to do platforming while avoiding all of Celestial's attacks, collecting the symbols prompting them to attack Celestial. This fight sucks, and the idiotic respawning makes this fight even harder, often respawning you over an empty pit, causing you to fall into the same pit and die again. This fight is so annoying it had to have checkpoints added to it. And the worst part is, there's no second phase. As soon as you get Stratosphere Simple, it just ends abruptly. Celestial has no last words, once again there's no second phase, there's just nothing. At least there's a pretty cool visual of the Emporium becoming uncorrupted. Also, his music is really good. So I'll transition to that now, because I am done complaining. While not having any original songs, AF2 manages to have a really good assortment of songs lined up for each of its worlds. When I heard a song, I didn't go, hey, I recognize that from insert game. I thought about how well it fit the theme. Many songs have become synonymous with AF2 above all else, such as Encore from Homestuck, Overworld by Cubby, and Awake by Michael Guy Bowman, which is pretty cool if you ask me. Graphics have always not been a strong suit of any Roblox game until very recently, but despite that, I think AF2's graphics and the building here have aged quite well. It's in the classic simple style, but with a modern layout. With a few exceptions, the game never made me go, hey, this game is 5 years old, in the visual department at least. They've aged quite well. Okay, I lied, I'm not done complaining, but I'll keep it brief. The post-game is kind of mid. Yogate is a really cool character, and the concept of Celestial hiding himself in the pocket dimensions is a really cool idea. That being said, Yogate's course sucks. Stratospheres is absolute perfection, however, and it's just a joy of nostalgia for people who played AF1. Moored and Passlesses are good, and Voixers is okay, although the fake out is really stupid and we should have just been able to beat him up. That's 0 out of 10. Except this game is kind of okay. Adventure Forward 2 is an incredible game for Roblox standards. It has many different worlds, memorable bosses, diverse gameplay, and a somewhat competent narrative. However, it has a multitude of problems relating to how bland its characters are and how it really falls on its face at the end. Combined with the fluctuating quality of level design and how it's just... I cannot even get over that ending, it's so bad. But despite that, many people love this game, even enough to remake it, twice now. And you know what? I still like it too. Just not as much as I did when I first played it, back in 2018. Because despite everything I've said about AF2's ending, at least it's iconic. Unlike a certain other game's ending. Super Paper Roblox is a disaster coming soon. But anyways, time to answer that question that I posed at the beginning. Does AF2 still hold up? Well, while certain aspects of the game bring it down and ruin the experience, I think it still does. In my personal opinion, AF2 still holds up to this day. But what do you think? Does this game still hold up to you? Do you agree or disagree with my review? Put your thoughts in the comments, and I'll read them. But anyways, that's all for now. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next year. Goodbye, and Merry Christmas.